Hey everybody, what's going on? Tonight is another album review, and I'm very, very excited to do this one. I've been contemplating what my next one is going to be, and then I listened to this record earlier today, and I'm like, wow, I haven't talked about this one yet, so I'm definitely going to. It is one of my favorite all-time records, top 10 for sure, and my all-time favorite hardcore record, and that is Wake the Dead by Comeback Kid. Wake the Dead came out in 2004 and was released through Victory Records, and there's a lot of legendary acts on Victory Records, bands such as Hawthorne Heights, Taking Back Sunday, Silverstein, very big legacy bands of that nature. But this band was one of the first bands I had ever heard in the hardcore scene that came from Victory Records. I usually knew Victory Records as like an emo label or like a pop punk label, but this was the first hardcore band that I heard come out of Victory Records, and I was very, very happy about that because this was at a time, especially in my young adult life, I didn't actually hear Wake the Dead until probably, I want to say, late senior year or my first year of college, which was in 2006. So for me, I was a little late to this party, but I had already listened to a couple other hardcore bands before, like Verse and Half Heart and Set It Straight and Final Fight. So when I heard this album, I was just like, yo, this is like all of those bands, but like elevated to another level. There was something about Wake the Dead that really got my heart pumping. It really, really got my blood boiling, but like in a good way. You know what I mean? Like there's a few staple records in the hardcore community, and I believe that this is definitely one of them. If it's not in people's top 5, I really don't know. For me personally, this is in my top 10 favorite records of all time, but it is definitely my #1 favorite hardcore record of all time. I remember the first time I saw Comeback Kid, it was when they opened for Rise Against and Silverstein. And at that time, I was really confused because I never really went to mixed bill shows like that before. Technically speaking, it's not really a mixed bill. It's all within the same realm. It's all punk rock and hardcore and all that kind of stuff. But for me back then, I was like, wow, a hardcore band is opening for Rise Against. But then as I did some research on my own terms, I found out like Rise Against was heavily involved in the hardcore scene when they were very, very young. And so to have a band like Comeback Kid opening for such a legendary band such as Rise Against, I was like, wow, this band must really mean something to people. And I definitely was not wrong about that. Comeback Kid is one of the most well-respected bands in the hardcore scene, even today. And this band's been around since the early 2000s. At least from my knowledge, Turn It Around, the album prior to this, came out in like maybe 2002, possibly 2001. I could be wrong about that, but I actually didn't hear that album until way after Wake the Dead. Not way after, I mean like maybe like a couple of months after Wake the Dead, because I didn't know it existed. This was at a time when the internet wasn't really, as poppin' as it is now. MySpace was a thing, but I was really into like deathcore and stuff back then, and hardcore really wasn't in my vision all that much. But there were some, like I said, Verse and Half Heart and Comeback Kid and Final Fight, Set It Straight, something like that. Those 5 bands really paved the way for like traditional hardcore. And obviously the first song I heard off of Wake the Dead was the track Wake the Dead. And there was something about just the intro to the song, just the and it's actually playing right now, which is ironic, but not ironic, a coincidence. But I just remember hearing the octave lead and the breakdown at the end of it being like, wow, for like a traditional hardcore band, they can get pretty heavy. And I love Comeback Kid for the overuse of octaves. It adds like melody to their songs, because most of their songs don't have clean singing, but there are a couple of songs on here that do have some clean singing. It's literally like, I want to say like, well, I mean like Wake the Dead has like a gang sing-along that is like kind of melodic, but it's not really like up in the forefront. It's in the background a little bit, kind of like as an ambient effect in the back. And I really, really dig that about that track. As I dove in more to Wake the Dead, I realized how perfect this album is. This is another one of those albums where I don't turn off one song. From False Idol's Fall to Final Goodbye, it is just a straight 26-minute fucking pointing finger fest, fists in the air, two-stepping along, moshing in my bedroom, hitting the steering wheel, just rocking the fuck out to this album. It's one of those, and it forever will be. And I remember the first time listening to it all the way through. I was with a buddy of mine named Eden, and we were in a band together once. And I remember only like having a couple of songs on my iPod. And I remember when he was like, dude, have you listened to the entire record? It's so fucking good. And we played it in his car on the way back from a show once. And I like kicked myself in the ass because I hadn't heard the entire thing. Like I probably had only heard False Idols Fall, Wake the Dead, Talk is Cheap, and Final Goodbye, because at that time those were the only 4 songs that were on my iPod, and those were the only 4 songs that I had heard previously from another friend of mine before I hung out with my buddy Eden, who showed me the rest of it. I think, and when I saw them live, I didn't really know a lot of their songs. Like when Wake the Dead and like False Idols Fall came on, I knew those ones, but that was about it. That was also at the time when broadcasting was really, really big, and that was like their newest thing that came out. So I didn't really know a lot of those songs, and they played a lot off of Turn It Around, which I didn't really know a lot of either. It was after that show that I saw them that I kind of discovered Turn It Around. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about Wake the Dead. As I had said, every song is a banger, 10 out of 10 without a doubt. What I love about this record so much is that every single song has a vast mixture. It's not every song sounds the same, which I really, really appreciate about this album. You know, False Idols Fall is definitely a really good introduction to the record, just because it comes up with a swell of like a really fast guitar picking part into a very, very epic circle pit beat. And that song gives me the chills every single time I hear it. No matter how many times I've heard it, I've probably heard this song up to 2,000 to 5,000 times. I've played this song so many times on my Spotify, on my iPod. Like it literally is one of my favorite songs in the history of music. That is how much I love this song. Obviously, Wake the Dead is an amazing song. And the song Partners in Crime, which has literally 3 words. I did this to myself! The summer air burning in my... And as soon as anybody hears that song live, people go fucking bananas. Like I've seen Comeback Kid live maybe 10 times, and every single time they play that song, it is just fucking utter chaos every single time, without a doubt. The song Talk is Cheap, that song, let me just say this. If I were to ever punch someone in the head, it would probably be to that song. I'm not a violent person at shows, but that is one of those songs where no matter how many times I hear that feedback into that first bass line, it's fucking game over, dude. Straight up, it is game over. That is one of the heaviest songs in hardcore I have ever heard. And I mean in traditional hardcore, not in like the overall grand scheme of the millions and millions of genres that there are in hardcore. Why did I just sound like Donald Trump? There's millions and millions of genres in hardcore, but traditional hardcore is the best. You know it, I know it, everybody else knows it. But anyways, it's just one of those songs. Talk is Cheap, so fucking heavy, and it has one of the coolest, catchiest like stomps I have ever heard in a song. Like it's so much fucking fun. Here's a little clip of it right here. Keep talking! On the note of a very powerful, like very heavy stomp, the last one in Final Goodbye as well is one of the fucking heaviest 2-step stomps, whatever you want to call those, in my opinion, in all of hardcore. It's one of those ones where it's just like, dude, fists are flying, you're fucking kicking people in the neck. It is just so much fun. And here's a little clip of it right here. Coincidentally, the song Final Goodbye is the last track on the album. And after this album came out, this was the final album that their original vocalist Scott Wade was on. And after he had quit the band, their guitar player Andrew Newfield took over the position, which I thought was really, really cool, because it's like, well, he wrote all the songs, he might as well stay in the band and do something else. And he did backup vocals for both Turn It Around and Wake the Dead. It was kind of like, well, I already know how to scream, so I might as well just take over the position and just have somebody else play guitar. Smart move, honestly, very smart move on their part. And with Comeback Kid being in like deeply rooted in the hardcore scene, there are a lot of very heavy breakdowns for a like traditional hardcore band. In the song Falling Apart, for example, like there is one of, it's not weird necessarily, but it definitely is a breakdown I wouldn't really see a hardcore band doing, which I'll play right here. And what I love about this breakdown in particular is that it's a breakdown at first, you know, in halftime, and then it picks it up and goes right into a two-step. And I think that that is so much fun. I love when bands do that. It makes me smile. It gets my heart racing. It sends chills down my fucking entire body. And I love that. And I know I already played the breakdown, but I'll play the same breakdown when it hits into the two-step right here. But seriously, this is one of those records where, like, if you are getting into hardcore and you're thinking like, who can I listen to and like what's good, this is definitely one of the records that you definitely need to check out when getting into hardcore. There's a lot that I can name off that I'm like, oh yeah, you definitely got to check this one out, this one out, this one out. But I think for a first listen to any like traditional hardcore band, this band and this album is definitely one that I think you should play first, just because like I personally believe that it's just a really easy listen. Like there's not too much going on. It's a very simple record. It's very melodic. It's happy sounding when it wants to. It's heavy as fuck when it wants to, but it's also very upbeat. It's just a fun time. It's a fun 26-minute listen to. There's not one song on here that is not mosh worthy. You know what I mean? Like even their slower songs are mosh worthy. Like you can two-step the entire time to one of their songs. Like they just flow so well with each other too. And I just love sonically the guitar tone. The bass tone is fat as fuck. Scott's vocals is just earth-shattering. His vocals are so fucking good. And the drums, I absolutely love Comeback Kid's drummer. Like one of the best hardcore drummers in the scene today. This entire band is so talented and they make very well crafted punk hardcore just rockin' fucking tracks. I know I say this a lot, but I fucking absolutely love Wake the Dead so fucking much. Every time there's a poll on Facebook of like, what albums can you guys listen to over and over and over and over again? Like if you had to take 3 albums onto a desert island for the rest of your life, what would one of those records be? Wake the Dead is 100% one of those. And if you guys are familiar with any of my work and any of my bands, this is one of the records that highly influenced me for my band's debut record, The Heavy Alternative, which I'll put a link in the description for that if you guys care to check it out. I'll also put a link in the description for my Spotify playlist for this album as well, for Wake the Dead, so that you guys, if you've never heard it before, you have a way to listen to it right off the bat as soon as this review is over. And also check out the rest of Comeback Kid's discography. Check out Turn It Around, check out Broadcasting, Die Knowing, all of it. Check out all of it. It's all different, but you can tell when you're listening to a Comeback Kid song. It's very distinct. I give them a lot of props for that. But Wake the Dead definitely has some of the most memorable guitar parts I've literally ever heard in the history of music. And I know that's like a big over exaggeration, but like I'm not exaggerating. Like there are so many records that I can listen to that have very memorable riffs, but Wake the Dead has like some of the most catchiest ones that literally never leave my brain. Like I have listened to this record countless times, and every single time without fault, I know what part's coming next. I know exactly how long it goes for. Even if it goes for like one revolution, just like one little small part, I know when it's coming and I can hum it exactly on point. And that I give so much credit to this album for doing that. It takes a lot to do that. Honestly, like you have to be a fucking musical genius to come up with something like that. Like how some artists are lyrical geniuses and can come up with really good vocal melodies. The fact that this band can come together and make guitar melodies mesh together that well, dude, round of fucking applause to Comeback Kid for that. So if this video hasn't convinced you enough to listen to it, I don't know what will, but if you do want to listen to it, there is a Spotify link down there for you and also a YouTube full album stream. I'll probably just put the one that I have playing in the background here in that description as well. I will also have a link in the description to my band's debut record, The Heavy Alternative. Well, it came out 2 years ago, but just to kind of show you guys like how influential this record was. So I would appreciate that if you gave at least this record a listen to. I don't care if you don't listen to mine, but please do yourself a favor. And if you're getting into hardcore and you need an album to listen to that is a really good, easy way for you to put your foot in the door, please do yourself a favor and listen to this album. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Thank you guys very much for watching this video. I really, really do appreciate that. Make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate that. I keep getting a couple subscribers per day, and that is wonderful. I really appreciate it. I just love making these videos, and I really, really hope you guys enjoy what I'm doing. And also make sure to leave a comment down below letting me know what your favorite song off of Wake the Dead is, or any Comeback Kid song in general. And I would love to have a discussion with everybody about that. Thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you guys next time.